too long because we wanted to tour longer. We wanted to be out there and do shows at 98. So how do we get this record out as quickly as possible? How do we make sure that the label doesn't second guess us too much? Because they don't know what they're talking about because they didn't sign us. They could care less about us. They don't think very highly of us. So how do we get this record done?
And also we knew that we could make a good record.
Oh yeah, absolutely right. We knew we could make a great record with Steven. We knew we could make a great record with Mark. And so, because amongst other things, we've done records with both of them already. So it was like, okay, this is a good combination. This is connecting the tissue of the previous record, the Christmas record, and Middle of Nowhere. And we're gonna, take this thing, all the way with these two, because at least we can't get into too much A&R hell, because they can't say, oh well, this is an unproven team. The team had already been proven. So,
I think about not just talking about the politics. You guys have heard a lot about the politics of Hanson, if you've been a fan for a while. You deserve a medal for that. You're like, I just like the music, guys.
When you guys sing Won't Go Down, I'm like, awesome. When you talk about it, I'm like,
But there's, with making the record, I mean, it really was in many ways just the style of the record. Production-wise, didn't change a lot. I mean, it was sort of like Middle of Nowhere cranked up a bit as far as it was really a busier.
Some cases cranked up a little bit too much.
It had more octane in the layers. There's a lot of layers of production.
Yeah.
But the record, there was a little bit more of a bluesy thing. So I think this time around, you never know. In the city, what if some of the others that are just kind of have that feel to them, Moving Can't Stop. And interestingly, I almost skipped over that.
Well, the kind of Latin influence you hear in Can't Stop and Hand in Hand a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit.
Some of this got that bluesy, kind of a little bit more polyrhythm heavy.
And I almost forgot about that too, that the record technically was started after the Rico Cassick session before Lebroni. We sat down. You Never Know was one of the first songs that was in the can as far as one of the songs we wanted to do. And we actually started producing that song and did about
99.9% of it.
Well, it ended up being probably about 80% of the production was what we did, plus what he put on top. There's a lot of stuff on there now.
It's just percussion and bass.
That kind of stuff?
Percussion and bass.
That's more than 1%.
Yeah, well,
it's more than 1/10
I know,
1%.
but I was just giving myself a lot of credit.
Yes. So technically that was the beginning of one of the first real just top to bottom finished record productions that we had done. But it also set, part of the reason saying that is it did set the tone for the rest of the record. Even though we were going to work with Steven and work with Mark Hudson, coming from all of our demos and all of our writing, there was a defined sound, and it was one of from that point on, that was the way we have approached records, is with a strong body of songs right from the beginning, and then if there's collaborations or if there's other songs that go on beyond that, it seems to still be defined by that first group. And the earliest songs I think for that record were This Time Around was definitely one of the earliest songs that was around. Wish I Was There was
Pretty early.
It's pretty early.
Can't Stop was really early.
Can't Stop was a song that was written before Mbop was written.
Oh yeah.
It was like one of those that took forever. It wasn't finished, but it started off.
It didn't have any of the verses. Yeah. All the verses were completely new, circa 2000 or circa 99.
Yeah, it was sort of written under the guise of that song that Lamb Chop sang. This is the song that we're like, can't stop, but we can't stop. We don't know how to stop. We can't stop. We're gonna keep on. Can't stop. We can't stop. Can't stop. We can't stop. Can't stop.
It's a good song.
It was good the first.
It was like, how long is this song gonna be?
How many times
we're gonna work it into a background part under every other song. The transitions to the Can't Stop.
It'll be a hit no matter what, guys. Why will it be a hit? Because it doesn't ever stop. It's an endless song.
Wow, that would be awesome if we could do that. Like the rest of the tour, one fan is always singing that song. Just like you know, like the Olympic torch. You know, they start with one person. It's like, can't stop. I traveled from Cincinnati to Delaware.
Why are you here?
Because I can't stop.
It'd be really great if he actually sort of sang it like Barry Gibb.
Yeah.
I can't stop it. Sorry, guys. Where were we? We're making an album. So this time around, the way we recorded it was most of the record was recorded in a studio. El Dorado. It was split between El Dorado and Music Grinders, the two kind of big studios. El Dorado is in like the hottest place in Los Angeles. It feels like a desert.
It doesn't mean it's cool.
It's not hot, like literally hot. Like you hide inside the building.
There isn't a tree for miles.
And one of the reasons why we worked with Mark Hudson and Stephen Neroni was that, like the first album, Stephen never wanted to do vocals. He came from a background of working on beats and being a drummer and a bass player and stuff. So we would develop the arrangements, and then we'd bounce back and forth, and somebody would be doing a bass session or something, and we'd trade off, and we
He'll be doing like a lead vocal, I'd be doing like guitars on.
And so we built up the record in this process, which had worked because Mark is an amazing partner to help layer vocals and produce vocals. And Stephen comes from a rhythmic background. And really, we spent that whole summer. How long was the process? It was about 6 months, probably, recording this time around. You're at the encyclopedia. You remember the months?
I have no idea.
I know we ended. In November, and it actually, it started in August because I remember the very end of July we were sorting stuff out. I remember that specifically. Yeah, so it was August through November.
That's 4 months.
That's amazing. And I think, trying to think about specific, aspects. Obviously, you guys have heard about guest appearances and things. Whether it was John Hoffer or Johnny Lane, and all that stuff was just, people that we'd gotten to know over the last year and a half, touring, meeting on the road. And it also was the fact that we had those particular guests was based on the style of music. We didn't have.
Ironically, both of them were on A&M Records. Interesting.
Kind of bluesy, rootsy guest appearances. Obviously, Rosestone comes from the soul music background, and Sly and the Family Stone. So all that stuff was building up the attitude and the sound of the record.
And much like Bob Babbitt on Shout It Out.
Yeah, exactly.
It was for our own enjoyment, not really for the
Rose Stone, she's gonna sell some albums.
It was just sort of like, that would be awesome.
And the unsung, not that unsung, I guess, but the DJ Swamp who played from Beck's band, who's unbelievable. The guy is insane. Like literally, he's insane. He also is a good DJ.
That's a really good DJ.
Yeah,
Really good.
more stories will come to mind, but I think it'd be a good idea if we let you guys ask some questions, and then we'll summarize and we'll tell, then the record.
So raise your hand if you have a question. Yes.
I like
right
that.
There.
Just one
right
question.
Away. Had a question. Yeah, you?
Well, a lot of artists talk about like structure again when you have to create a second album. The first album. Did you do any of that?
Well, we didn't feel pressure creatively. What we felt was the thing that we were describing going into the record, which was, oh shit, this could get bad. Meaning that we were not going to be in a situation where the music necessarily was the challenge. It was all the other stuff. And so, which of course ultimately is a precursor to what happens years later with Underneath. But
I would say we were, I know I can speak for myself, I was really conscious of that, of making it a great record. But we never not wanted to make a great record. And I think it would be, to say there wasn't some sense of the ominous sophomore record would be false. I mean, of course, we wanted to make it a great record, and you wanted it to be successful.
I just felt the ominousness mostly from the fact that we were concerned that our label was not going to be effective and supportive in the way that we needed it from them, because we knew we had a lot of elements of misunderstanding about what we were as a band. You know, a lot of this kind of, oh yeah, aren't they like dance pop, like boy band stuff? Like, and we knew that was this looming issue, and that the previous label had not done a very good job of translating that into a better understanding broadly in marketing, and we knew that was an issue. But always the focus is the best song you could possibly get out, the best single choice, and so on and so forth.
One thing that was for me was like a confidence boost early on was when we wrote If Only. I immediately felt like we had one strong single, one that was gonna, and then honestly didn't think of this time around as being a breakout single until the very end. I mean, it was a great song, but it didn't think of it that way. I mean, it's sort of it was almost a ballad. You know, half of it is that way, and it became this kind of ruckus driving thing. And the other song was Runaway Run. I always thought Runaway Run would be one of the main singles from that record. And still wish someone would just cover that song and make it a hit after us. Anyone? And that's one of those things that goes songwriting.
I felt like If Only and Runaway Run should have been the first two singles, and then this time around, which was also, by the way, later a big debate between us and the label.
But it's interesting because when you go into write music, I mean, there is a degree to where there's this timeless nature of songs that I think a great song should be able to live past when it was first created. I mean, we listen so much to music that we all know wasn't created in the era that we were, we've existed. Even if you're not listening to old rock and roll like we were as kids, we know, stuff in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, almost 20 years ago. Holy shit.
Yes, we're that old.
And
actually speak for myself.
And so there's songs where you just, beyond, kind of all the other things going on as an artist, at least I feel this way, when you know you've done something that you're genuinely proud of, there's a certain degree of calm that is there. Because it's like, you know what, you can't take that away. I know what we've done, and whether it's going to get recorded perfectly, or whether it's going to be marketed perfectly, or the video's going to be perfect, you know you've done that part. And so that's the building blocks to get to the next chapter.
I also remember specifically when Save Me was written.
Yeah.
And I remember, my favorite thing about that song is, hands down, is the bridge, which reminds me also of a song that was later written called Down, which did not end up on a record, but is also something about the nuts and bolts of those two songs.
Yeah, that was very wasn't put on the record.
Well, yeah, but was that one? No, that one wasn't started during the summer, but very quickly after that record it was.
Started at the same time.
Yeah.
Just didn't get finished.
Yeah. So you have that. I just remember going, that bridge just like takes the song from being a nice ballad, this yearning thing, to like a level of intensity that I just always really like about songs. I always feel like the job of a bridge is to take the song to another level. It's a new chorus. It's not the chorus you're going to sing over and over again, but it's that thing that should be hooky enough that you want to rewind and listen to that part again, because it's that thing where you started off with the Advertiser, and then you thought you were only going to get a steak, but then they brought you some buttery mashed potatoes, and you were like, yeah, that made the meal good.
I think my love handles just vibrated. Okay, who's got another question?
I think it's
I'm
more
getting
like
hungry.
It's more like steak sauce.
How about
It's
right?
like a steak, and then you add a one, and you're like, yes. Okay, go for it.
Question right now.
I don't know if you said it right because I don't understand everything in this, so I'm trying.
Are we working on a new album?
Yeah. Can you show the rest of it?
Yeah, you guys in the back probably can't hear. She's just asking if we're working on a new album. We are not planning to go right into the studio to make another album next year. It's not because music is not being written, but we're just talking about a different approach to it, and that maybe we should put out smaller pieces of things more frequently, maybe different types of concerts, events, things like that. And also, one of the challenges in this whole new weird business is media and radio and TV, they're still thinking album, because most people that are running those things are between 30 and 60 years old. Whereas the rest of the world is buying music on cell phones, watching it on YouTube, consuming it through iTunes, going on Facebook, blah, blah, blah. And
it's a very visceral, quick.
The third confusing element to that is the fact that as an artist, it's weird to not think of music as a body of work, like to go in and make an album. So what we're trying to figure out how to do is for one, make time to just do the things we know we need to do. For instance, like doing international shows and touring, and trying to remove some of the burden of like this cycle that you have to go through with a new album, but give ourselves freedom to go and respond and be places that we need to be. So there's definitely new music that's getting written, and there will be new music.
Yeah, we are actually
next year.
playing the song I really like in Soundcheck earlier today.
I hate that song.
We have a long history of that too.
I don't know if that made sense. We are working on music, but there is not an imminent plan to have another album come out next year.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that we won't be putting things out. So
Yeah.
okay.
Any more questions relating to this time around?
Why not in the back with the sunglasses?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you. You're in the back. You've got sunglasses.
I guess I was just wondering, and it's not directly related to this time around, but besides being brothers, what enables you guys to keep putting out music and keep staying together, and have that staying power that other bands don't have?
We signed a really, really intense contract. They're bound to me. They can't leave. They've tried. Zach wants to be a plumber. Ike wants to be a baker. He really likes making cakes.
Taylor is the candlestick maker.
The plumber, the baker, and the candlestick.
He called me a baker. I just couldn't help it.
I think, like any relationship, unfortunately, there's nothing special to it other than your commitment to make it work. So obviously there are things that bring us together, like making music, like playing concerts, that we all really enjoy doing. The sort of mutual time you spent developing something, the same references, the same life experiences. And then beyond that, it's just, are you stubborn enough to care enough for what you do and the person that you're working with, not to say that thing that you know would cause it to end.
Yeah.
Not to do that thing. Like, I'm going to make some cakes. That's what Ike wants to say. No, he doesn't even like making cakes.
Only chocolate cakes with double fudge icing.
But there's certainly plenty of times over the last almost 20 years that people could have said, I quit. I won't see you tomorrow. I'm moving to Denver. I want to ski.
Except the awkward thing is that mom calls you and goes, Ike, I heard about the fight you and Zach. I'm a little bit concerned. Do you guys fight like this often?
My mom obviously only calls him because I've never gotten that.
Just for a small anecdote, and we'll get back to the other, but the truth is we actually get along really well. It's not fake. We do genuinely like each other most of the time. But there's a lot of things that we are so different on. We were comparing it earlier. We were asking a question about, because it is true, we all want to go to the same place, but we have different ways of getting there. And we often, as a comparison, it's sort of like motorcycle, he's in plane and I'm on a glider, or whatever. Zach can be on a glider if he wants to be on a glider. I want to be on a glider. That's motorcycle. But we're going the same direction. And I think that's one of the things that makes stuff work. Is you're not.
I think I'm on
You're
the
not trying
glider.
to.
I think you're in the plane.
You're on a kite.
No.
I'm just saying, I'm taking my time.
Ike's got a newspaper in a rickshaw. Take me away.
This is a very, very interesting political analysis of what is going on in the world economy right now. I've got this idea. And then I show up in a rickshaw 2 hours later and go, guys.
I'm doing a halo drop, like upper atmosphere, oxygen, low altitude opening of my chute. I'll take the motorcycle, kids. What I was going to say about that, I'm sorry, I'm going to remember. What are we doing here? I was going to make one comment about fighting, which is funny, which is that there's very few times that things literally get to like people fighting each other physically, but at the very end of making this album, there was
Shout it out.
Shout It Out, sorry, the latest album. There was an altercation that could not be broken, and Zach literally was stopping Ike from walking out of the studio. Ike had one idea, Zach had another idea. Their idea of how to fix it was to face it off, and literally, it ended with a fist hitting the studio door and leaving a deep indention. And that was the moment where our extended family is around, but never really there when we're actually working. Our mom just happens to come in with milk and cookies. And here's our mom, a sweet mom, that she comes in. She walks in, and she looked at our engineer friend and was like, "Are they always like this?" And our poor mom, she's like, she never sees that.
It was a topic of conversation for at least a month.
She sat down with her engineer and said, "Now, can you talk to me about the boys?" Anyway, there are those moments, and there's a hole in that studio door now. It lasted years without holes, but for whatever reason. And, yeah.
We blame him.
He got off his rickshaw and hit that door.
I just don't like it when people rush me, okay?
So,
I don't like it when people leave prematurely.
who's got boxing gloves? Anyway, that idea of staying together is... There's one other thing, and we'll get another question here, but not to be gushy and weird, but I've always been proud of the idea of doing something that was bigger than one human, and part of what's, people admire that. I admire that when I see that in other people, whether it's businesses or even, people that are working for causes. There's something that we all want to hope and believe that things can last, they can grow, they can have meaning,
and that people can work together.
And so I've always been, hoped that even though we have differences and we do different things and we have different ways of getting there, rickshaws and gliders, and
as you can tell from the way that we're all dressed, amongst other things,
that there's something that happens when it all comes together, and that's part of what is a driving force in continuing to make records and make music, and is realizing that everybody's got their spot. Nobody's fighting for the same place in this motley little unit we have. But together there's a thing that happens that you can't really do otherwise, and that's part of what makes it cool. And
amongst other things, we can literally practically harmonize anything on the spot, and
don't.
No, but we don't. No, but I'm just saying that we don't even think about it because Taylor will sing the melody.
I was trying to harmonize with you talking.
If you keep talking,
Taylor will sing the melody.
What are you talking about?
But Taylor will always end up singing the melody. Zach will sing the upper third, and I'll sing the fifth below the melody, and I don't.
Really,
it just happens. We just do it. And so
it's just similar to foot and mouth kind of thing. Sorry.
I said it was a sickness. That must have been the follow-up to that.
Yeah. Okay, another question.
I'm going to choose. I'm going to try and not go to the front because we picked somebody on the front, and then we'll come back to the front, right? Red in here.
Yes, yellow bracelet. Yeah.
I can't. Everything looks kind of blurry to me.
The reason we didn't record the last verse to a song to sing was simply that song would be. It was long already, and it was really long with the last verse.
And the truth is, it was actually recorded. It was actually taken out. The only thing that we...
It was actually the second verse as well.
We basically recorded the song, and this hasn't happened very many times. There's very few songs like that, but it just felt long. It just felt like on the record, it's the last song, at the end of the night. And you never want people to go, all right, let's go. All right, let's go. You never want that to happen. It's, even, and then that's kind of the pop songwriters in us. It's like, it's better to start over and hear that minute. Even with it being a poignant song. But the point of the song was so strong, that's why we left those lyrics in the art, was we sort of didn't want that to disappear. And that was
all the verses, though. That was also sort of the least important verse as far as the message of what the song's saying.
It was the most existential sort of final thought versus the building block.
Well, it was almost like the other two verses kind of got you there for the most part.
Do we all talk with our hands?
We're done, eh? No, actually,
what I mean is this versus this.
We should use FedEx Ground.
I think we should
use FedEx Ground. Why'd you like it when he did that? Well, he did this.
It's a commercial. Never mind.
Okay, more questions.
I think we're just trying to make our point strongly. Get your people notice what we're.
I'm not going to talk with my hands anymore.
Yeah, okay.
No, I was going to say, when you guys start writing songs like individually, do you sing that song, or how do you decide who's going to sing the song?
That's interesting.
How do we decide who's going to sing a song, especially when songs are started individually?
Songwriting individually versus group, it's a little bit of voodoo. I mean, there's a part of it comes down to just how the song finishes. Songs will start in some cases as a piece, and somebody might bring a song idea. But a lot of times what happens is that piece may end up as a part versus exactly how it came, or maybe it was, you thought the verse was a verse, but it turns out that verse is a chorus. And it comes from working on it together. I mean, there are a lot of songs that people that are singing lead are singing, maybe started the song, but that's not the case in many cases. And there's a lot of cases where songs come when we're literally in a room, like Dancing in the Wind was written sort of at once.
Bunch of songs I've shouted out were written that way.
I don't know. There's certainly songs where once you arrange it, who's singing lead on different things changes. Like, one thing that's always been funny to me is I'll hear fans sing If Only, and they'll sing the high part on the chorus because Tay sings the high part and I sing the melody on the chorus. I'm like,
the melody of If Only is, if only I had to feel this way. That's what the song melody was written.
And everybody in the room's like, really?
But when we switch off, I'm singing, have you got to feel this way? And he's singing the melody. We did that to try and change the lyrics. To try and change the balance.
Which, by the way, in the demo of If Only, Zach sings all of the melody on the B section. Yeah. And that was, again, kind of one of these, like, accidental, okay, we'll leave it.
Inside baseball, people.
Yeah, but that's just kind of where that comes from, too. And also in the very end of, also tying it back to this time around, at the very end of Dying to Be Alive, there's a switch where Zach ends up singing the melody and Tay's above.
It's a combination of people's vocal range and where the song sits a lot of times, and then we just sort of do it, and it happens, and people fill in the holes. Somebody once saw us making a sandcastle, and they said, "You didn't say anything." Like we were young kids. It's just like you didn't talk to each other the whole time, but you just built this thing together. And I was like, yeah. Why we didn't need to say anything? You just do it. We all know what we were doing.
He's tower guy. He's bridge guy. He's wall guy.
That's Tunnel Girl over there.
Well, who is Tunnel Girl? She's with me. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm really sorry.
Okay, another question.
There's so many other bands you could have been a fan of.
There's still time.
Yeah, you have so much life left. Okay, I picked a couple people. Who wants to pick?
Why don't we go over here? Yes.
You worked with Johnny Lane. What songs did you work on? What songs did you work on with you guys?
The songs he ended up playing was he plays on You Never Know, right? And ultimately, he plays on Hand in Hand. And they were
And he plays on This Time Around as well.
This time around.
Yeah.
There were several other songs we talked about him doing. We were talking about him playing on Can't Stop, but the production was just more busy, didn't have enough room for it. I think what else? I think that's it.
But if we would arrange it like we do now live, you would have plenty of room.
Yeah. So mostly the songs that he ended up actually featured on. I think it's marked on the credits of the songs.
Yeah. I mean, and Johnny, it was just, we met him, we liked his music. And it was like, do you want to come in? Are you free today?
And I just went
It's
up
as
and
simple
like,
as that.
hey, brother,
It's like, you're good.
you're awesome. You guitar, really cool. Please go play.
Why don't we go over here and see if there's any other questions? Go all the way to the end.
Just in general, how do you guys go about picking the songs for the set list for sure?
Tonight, we picked them based on
Tonight it's sort of
The
what's not
story.
on this time around.
Well, like a normal, like I know
No.
the tour is different, but
There's a couple things. It comes from rehearsal. When you rehearse, we're usually thinking about good opening songs, and there's a flow. There's like an excitement and a feeling, and trying to let you guys rest for a second, let us rest in the middle somewhere. But it's a little bit mysterious. A lot of it comes from just having played show after show after show. There's a feeling that comes from the city you're in, the night you're in, and sometimes it's a matter of trying to stay excited about the set, and so you want to change things up because you tend to get complacent. You don't ever want to be on autopilot. Like, well, we know this song, here we go.
Well, that's when it happens. That's the autopilot always happens to me, where I'm like, crap. How's the song go again?
Sometimes you know songs so well or set lists so well that you can tune out. I guess the actual process, I'm usually sitting at a laptop in the bus about an hour before and then moving things around, and then people are walking over going, oh, don't do that. Oh, yeah. Or why would you do that? And then we end up deciding about half an hour before usually.
It's somebody punches a hole in the door and then it's done.
It is kind of interesting because you do get a feeling in each city, I feel like, about what is the right set. I mean, there's certain cities that feel like rock crowds, and there's certain cities that feel mellower, and there's certain days that feel different.
Yes.
And that you just try and play those factors.
If you wanted to hear something in particular, you might just sort of send that aura out. And they would catch it.
Right now, just aura.
You could just beam that.
It would either be that song. No, we also do, except for this tour, but normally we'll also reference the set list that we played last time that we were in a city, and try and make sure that we're not repeating
If you came to
ourselves
see a show and you
too much.
you're not going to see the same thing.
Yeah.
So,
Probably just one more question, guys. So, think of something really good.
I like that the hands are going like this. La 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 la. It is dancing hands.
Nice.
So
Oh,
to
look at
dancing
that.
hands, what is your question?
in the 60s and 70s, they had bands that did, I don't know what it's called, double songs or singles. You could do a song
Yeah.
like that. What is that called?
A-sides, B-sides?
A-side, B-side. Yeah.
Single. Why don't more people do that for marketing purposes? Like it plays on the radio, they play both.
That is purely practical and also relating to the fact that there were less records released in general. And also a lot of the times it's because the bands were freaking huge. You got a band like Led Zeppelin or like the Beatles, and they're releasing it on vinyl. It doesn't exist anywhere else. There is no internet. There is no internet. And so they've just got the 45, and they don't have a record out. In a lot of cases, those records, there were either not long-form records released, the full 12-inch vinyl, or they were, the B-side was a song that's not on the record. the only way to get it was on that 45. And so a lot of times, especially in the advent of FM was this long form format. They would play entire records from top to bottom on FM.
FM was sort of like XM is now.
But even more freeform and localized as well.
The other thing too is one of the first things you said is probably simpler. There's so many more albums now. So like if you were a radio station during the 60s or the 70s when FM started to really, you were looking for new content. We need to fill the airwaves, and they had so few actual labels that could manufacture records and could send it to the radio promo guy and deliver it because it was expensive. And now it's like, well, yeah, I wrote this song last night in my bedroom and recorded it on my keyboard and sent it off to the radio. And it's so different. There's an excess of music now.
During that time period, in a lot of cases, you actually could own every record that was released that week.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, because I bought all six records that came out this week. It wasn't like I bought all 6,000 albums that were released this week in the U.S. I've got to go get the Brazilian albums, and you really could. There was just a smaller amount of music.
Yeah.
But that's, we were talking earlier about us releasing records and what we're working on for next year, and part of that connects with what we're talking about, which is essentially, the idea of albums is really a pretty recent concept. It's not something that actually has been around that long, even though that's all we've grown up with. It's more recent. It's sort of a couple generations old, and so I think finding different ways to release music and still make it compelling is something that we sort of revel in that challenge. And
for me, it's also about responding to the environment and to the reality of what I feel like people are not responding to, which is most record companies, most bands, in a lot of cases are just going, well, this is the way it's done. And we're looking around going, this may be the way it's done, but the way it's done is 30 years old. And last time I checked, the difference between 1972 and 2002 is pretty damn big.
Technologically, think about the difference between 2002 and 2011.
Exactly.
It's huge.
It's huge. Massive. So,
when
anyway,
he says about the environment, I thought he meant about sort of Mother Earth.
No, we're not recording records on kelp. That's just impractical.
There's a lot of kelp, though.
That's true, but then people will start complaining you're depleting the ocean of the kelp.
I want to say I'm sorry.
So, coming back, obviously tonight, we're talking about it this time around, so we're going to play primarily this time around. And I noticed that there were some questions on the website about us not playing every single song from every record that gets featured. That is our prerogative, kids. But we're going to, every night we're featuring an album, the idea is to play as much of that album as possible and still make the show feel like a good show. So we're gonna play a lot of songs from that record, and it's the record that we were, it's the decade-old album for the first time. We're stepping away from it, playing it down as a body of work, and we hope you guys enjoy it tonight. Cool. Thanks for being here. And thanks for your questions. Really good question.